Hello, 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 team. I am not sure if we are live or not. My my previous side is throwing all of the things. It says something's gone wrong, but then I also can see that we are live. So we're going to record. Um, Happy Monday, team. I am very glad to be here with you, even if it's a few minutes late. Now, today, the topic that we were discussing is kind of regaining perspective. I am speaking to so many people in business and in organizations who are feeling like really stuck in a point of view and in a perspective. At the end of financial year is coming up, they're looking at their goals, they're reassessing how they want to approach the next year. And they're thinking about how to integrate AI, how to build flexibility, all of those types of things. Excuse me. And often they're feeling like they're on that treadmill, which we have discussed before. So I'm here to offer you an alternative perspective to this. Now, yes, if we're within a corporate, we have got KPIs, we've got targets that have been set for us that we need to be working towards. So there's not too much wiggle room there in terms of like goal, but approach there most definitely is. And for the self-employed and the business owners, I want you to really focus on redefining success and the timelines. Most individuals, myself included, that I speak to have got a very linear viewpoint of what success is and how to grow, scale, develop a business. And that is based on what has happened before and what society deems as the appropriate way. And that normally looks like build, throw everything into this huge build, and then eventually sell, which is fine. Yet, most people I meet who are on this pathway are not happy. They are highly stressed. They feel as though they're sinking, and their one thought is business and nothing more than that. And there's that exchange that we've discussed before. So they are giving their energy for the business to make it grow, and the exchange is that they have this deficit in enjoyment, in recovery, and in, I mean, balance is probably the wrong word because there isn't particularly, but in just being able to prioritize other areas of your life. Therefore, I want you to think, if you were to take success away, as in societal versions of success, and you weren't looking at your competitors and your peers, what would good be for you? Would it be being able to enjoy the work, being able to enjoy the bills, being able to be creative, being able to try different things? Would it be spending more time prioritizing self, enjoying things unrelated to the business, and thinking, why can't I have these as part of the path to growing something extremely successful? Because basically, when we're looking at reimagining our perspective within our businesses and within our work, we are trying to develop flexible thinking. Flexible thinking is the ability to be able to see the detail and to be able to see the bigger picture in a situation. And quite often we set this target, what's the goal, what we're trying to achieve, and then everything is about pushing towards this goal. And it gives us this real tunnel vision where that's all we can see, and the brain just focuses in on that. And this is called convergent thinking. And convergent thinking is really, really important to help us figure out what is going wrong in a situation, to be able to problem solve effectively, to be able to develop excellent plans, all of that type of stuff. So divergent thinking is very important, but so many of us get stuck in that a very linear, like detail driven next step approach, that we forget that there are many ways to skin a cat, and we are not accessing convergent thinking. So divergent thinking. And this is way more creative. It's non-linear. It's like, what could be? What are all the alternatives that are available to us? How many versions of success are there? If this was to be fun or playful, how else could I get to this point in a way that feels nourishing? Because I often, particularly when I'm with business owners, we are so stuck in the build or the running that we forget that we built it and we're running it. And it gets to be success is what we measure it by. So success could be being able to mess around on a Wednesday morning, doing whatever it is that you want to be. It could be I'm able to buy food for X amount of people. It could be that I am able to, I don't know, um, go on holiday and work from wherever, whatever. We get to measure it by our standards instead of looking at everybody else and getting overwhelmed by their goals. So anyway, let's just kind of wrap this, take that back a step. So when we're looking at reframing perspective, we want to be able to have cognitive flexibility. So we want to be able to move between convergent and divergent thinking, narrow in on a problem if there is an issue while we're not being able to grow, scale, or have fun, and then convergent, which is like how many ways am I able to build what I want and then flip back into divergent. So have this cognitive flexibility to change thinking styles. There are loads of different tools that you can help you with your convergent thinking. So it could be you write down the goal that you're working towards or the problem, and then you kind of take a step back. What led to this? What's the one step that led to that? What led to that step? Like the whys, the five whys, where you put a problem or something that you're working towards, and then you ask yourself like why, so why isn't that working? And then when you've got that, it's like, well, why is that step not working? So these help us like get specificity on an issue or a goal that we are struggling to work towards. And then once we have got whatever that could be, then it's playtime. It's divergent thinking. So it's mind mapping. It's thinking, if I could have anything that I wanted, what would it look like? It's using things like appreciative inquiry, where we dream, the biggest version of our business, or social media or market or whatever it could be, and then we design it, and then we flip back and say, right, what would these small actionable steps be that take us towards that goal? I hope that this is making sense today, friends. In my head, it was going to be, but we build our lives, we build our workflows, and you don't have to do it the way that everybody else is. Most people are stuck on the hamster wheel of stress and overwhelm, and they just can't keep up whatsoever. And then they look outside, and all they see is people who are thriving, or they've got a tighter schedule, or they're maximizing every single thing, and then that amplifies the pressure that they are feeling, and therefore they don't recognize their successes because they aren't mapping it against their internal desires. They're mapping it against external markers, validation markers, which they may not even want. And within the workplace as well, when we are trying to work towards the KPIs and we believe that there is this one particular way to approach it, not so. We have something called positive deviance, which is something that we want to be able to celebrate. And this is where we purposely question the status quo so that we can develop better ways of working and of doing things. So, an example of this could be within the NHS. Traditionally, doctors would wear long sleeved shirts and collared shirts and ties to see the patients because it was a power position and they wanted to be perceived as, the individual in the power role. And they had really high cases of MS. I can never say it, MSRI, MRSI, you tell me. And people were dying, and there was a junior doctor, and this chap said, I think that maybe that we are seeing problems based off long collars, ties, maybe spreading infection. And he was told, no, this is the way we've always done things. This is appropriate, stop it. So fine. And then he went on to his own ward and he thought, I'm going to check this out myself. And he began rolling up his sleeves, taking off his tie, and just having, his collared shirts. And he noticed that the infection rates massively dropped. And so he began some other like hygiene protocols around what he wore, no watches, nothing that can drag across a patient, making sure that they clean their clothes. Clean clothes get put on as they go into a ward and then they get kind of taken off and washed as they leave the ward. And the infection rates massively dropped. And then what was a rebellious act because they went against the status quo is now the protocol in hospitals within the UK, where you will never see a doctor walk around with long sleeves and ties. They always will have their arms clean, their shirts rolled up, and they'll have an open collar because they've realized that it's going to spread disease. And so much so that Boris Johnson was visiting a hospital on live TV and he went in suited and booted, and a surgeon or a senior doctor or somebody stormed into this live interview and was like, who do you think you are? You think you're above our patients wearing what you're wearing? Get your sleeves up, take your tie off, or get out. So what looked like a rebellious act became the thing that changed the system. And when we're looking at reframing, and changing our perspective, this novel divergent approach is where the magic happens. Being able to play with your work, how could you achieve your targets? What would feel fun in that approach? How can you do the exact opposite of what you're currently doing and get results? Within your business, what is success? What could it look like? What are the small milestones? How can you enjoy your work? Because it doesn't have to be this rapid face. As long as we're like being able to wash our face, um, you can be ambitious and still build a business on your terms. And that doesn't mean that it has to be some overnight success. It can be done very slowly. And the wins can look minute on the outside, but be vast on the inside. So just think, what else could exist? If I could make this task or this business approach the most fun version of itself, what would that look like? And then give it a go. One of the reasons I've started doing these lives, one is because it would be nice to be able to share with people from my community, but also because it felt playful and it felt fun and it felt like a novel new approach for me to be able to talk about topics that I love, promote my work, and just to play. I get to design this and I don't have to be brilliant at it yet. I don't have to have a huge following yet, but I do get to do something that feels nice for me, and that makes my business feel better as well. And not every single approach that you take in your business or your work has to be measurable. It doesn't have to have like a conversion or something at the end of it. It can be something that nourishes you and makes you feel aligned and joyful within your work, and that is what is going to give you greater capacity to build, grow, and meet your targets. Just think, when we are stuck in convergent thinking, very narrow, very like detail driven, then this can create a threat response for us. So that means that we get tunnel vision into that problem and it can feel really hard to see anything but the crap. So it shuts off our capacity to access, and fully utilize our brain and makes things harder. But when we are divergent and we are playful, then we're creating play states and regulated or like high performing states within our body and our nervous system, which means we are more likely to take action. We are more likely to get the results that we want, and we can see more alternatives in our life. So just think, if this could be the best version of itself, what would it look like and what would you be doing? And friends, thank you. I will speak to you next week.